So I saw an article today that Amanda Knox has made her Instagram public, and there's been a lot of comments made on the article, which I'm still receiving notifications. So if you hear a ding, that's what it is. And a lot of people are like, she's guilty, look into her eyes, she's evil, and all this kind of stuff. And it amazes me that there's still so much misconception about what happened. And I think it's really reminiscent of, or it's a really good example of what is wrong with our society today. It's full of sexism. It's full of conspiracy theories, and it takes something that's honestly, if you look at the evidence, it's simple, and it's been made into this huge thing. And it's like, we love to take things that are simple and make them complicated for some reason. And then we like to take things that are complicated and try to simplify them. And it just doesn't work. We need to stop doing that. But Amanda Knox didn't kill Meredith Kircher. She didn't. Rudy Gay did. So I just want to go over some of the evidence. And this is some of the stuff I've been arguing with people online, because they just come on. Like, there was a new documentary on Netflix. I love Netflix documentaries. Love them. And so they recently did one about Amanda Knox. And I've read everything I could get my hands on when it comes to this case. I've read Amanda's book. I've read Raphael's book. I've read a couple of books by independent people. I'm very manic about topics, and I love true crime. When I was in high school, in both my biology and my chemistry class, we had a police officer come in and go over forensics. I really should have been in forensics, but I don't think I could handle the whole police part. So, but I loved it. I found it fascinating, and I was really good at it. So, So when I started learning about this case, and the more I read about it, and the more I looked into the evidence and the pictures, and the more I learned about the prosecutor, the more I realized how ridiculous the whole thing was. That this was a perfect example of people using a young woman's sexuality against her. Meredith was, when referring to her sex life, she made love, where Amanda was made out to be this femme fatale and slut and a whore and all this kind of stuff for not doing anything different. It was just, that is how they use these girls' sexualities to paint different pictures of them. So when I read these comments about how, she looks evil, and you look into her eyes and she's evil, it's ridiculous, because you can't look into somebody's eyes and see evil. Like, it doesn't work that way. And the only reason that she was even considered a suspect in the first place was because she acted weird, according to people. And you have to remember, like, there's cultural differences, and it just, exacerbated things, that there was a language barrier. She didn't speak very good Italian. They didn't speak very good English. So simple things like, for us in North America, if I said, okay, see you later, after talking to somebody, it's not assumed that I'm literally going to see the person within the next few hours. Could be the next few hours, it could be the next few days, it could be like in years, but it's just something that we flippantly say, I'll see you later. Where in Italian culture, it literally means I'll see you later that day. So that got her into trouble, because she said see you later to her boss, and they took that as, oh, you went out somewhere, when she didn't. So there was a lot of cultural issues, even between Amanda and Meredith's other friends. They were English, and we all know that there's a bit of a cultural difference between the English and the U.S. So there's a big cultural difference between Canadians and Americans. So to judge someone else based on the standards in your culture and your society and your country, that's not really fair. Like there was a story that Amanda Knox told in her book about how she would play this game on public transit where she would try to make people smile. And that was just who she is. She's weird. And as someone who is weird and socially awkward, I totally feel for the girl. I really do. I totally understand that. And the way she was treated, she was young. I couldn't imagine at 19, 20, being accused of murder. And they didn't accuse her of murder either. They just try to talk her into it. And even Navy SEALs have commented when they hear about the interrogation, and what she endured during the interrogation. They're like, yeah, that's what we're trained against. Navy SEALs are trained against the techniques that were used on Amanda Knox. So, you get a lot of people who are like, oh, I would never admit to a crime I didn't commit. It's like, well, you'd be surprised how often that actually happens. So, but even if we took out the human element of it, we took out what the media said about her, what the prosecutor said about her, anything about Foxy Knoxy, any of that kind of stuff. If we just looked at the evidence, and the evidence is simple. It really, really is. So Amanda and Raphael, their DNA wasn't found in Amanda's room with the exception of a minute amount of DNA from Raphael found on Meredith's bra clasp that had been cut off the back of her bra by her assailant. Now, a lot of people are like, aha, there's his DNA. The problem is that the bra clasp wasn't collected until about 8 days later. I believe it was 8 days. 8 days later. So at that point, it had been kicking around the apartment, Meredith's room, for over a week. People would come in and out. The mattress where Meredith was actually murdered was in the living room at that point. So, there was so much cross-contamination. If you look at the video, which you can find on YouTube, I'll try to find it and I'll put a link below. But you can actually see forensics workers touching evidence, including the bra clasp, with dirty gloves. Right? So there's so much cross-contamination at the scene. There was so little of Raphael's DNA found in the room, there's no way it could come from anything other than cross-contamination, because there would be no way for Amanda and Raphael to clean up all their DNA and leave all Rudy Gaday's. His DNA was all over the place. All over the place. Plus, his bloody handprint was found on her purse. His prints were all over the place. Plus, it fit his MO. He had done prior burglaries, and his MO was to break a second-story window and climb in. Then he would make himself something to eat, use the bathroom. And when he used the bathroom, I know way too much about this guy's pooping habits. When he uses the bathroom, he would put in headphones. He would listen to music while using the bathroom. And sometimes he would even doze off. So it's not unreasonable to believe that, he broke into the empty apartment because he knew the apartment because he was friends with the guys downstairs. So he broke in when nobody was home. Meredith came home while he was in the bathroom. He also had a habit of not flushing the toilet properly, which Amanda did too, but it wasn't her poop. So she came home, he was using the bathroom, he either didn't hear her or he waited until she was in her room, but I'm guessing he didn't hear her, came out, saw her there, and it was a crime of opportunity. He had talked to the guys downstairs about Meredith before, and she had blown him off at one point, if I remember correctly. So, there's no way that Amanda and Raphael could have cleaned up all their DNA from that room and left Rudy's and not left evidence that they had cleaned up. It would have been virtually impossible. It is impossible. Another piece of evidence that people talk about is the knife. Now, the knife actually wasn't conclusively found to be the knife. It didn't actually, they never, it didn't match the wounds found on Meredith. But a lot of people are like, oh, the blood on the knife. Well, the blood on the knife wasn't Meredith's. They found Meredith's DNA, but they didn't find Meredith's knife or blood necessarily. Now, Amanda's DNA was found on the knife because she used the knife. She used the knife to make dinner at Raphael's. She washed the knife. She put the knife away. Meredith's DNA was from cross-contamination at the lab. Now, when they collected the knife, what happened is the police showed up at Raphael's apartment. Cop opened the drawer and goes, this one, and just picked a knife. Like, he's like, this one looks like it would be the murder weapon. Like, how does that, like, they didn't take all the knives from the drawer and just happened to find her DNA on one of them. They just randomly picked a knife from the drawer and put it in a cardboard box and took it away. They didn't seal it in an evidence bag, nothing like that. They just threw it in a box and took it away. And another piece of evidence they found was that Raphael had a collection of really graphic manga. Now, I read manga and comic books. Some of them can be like out there, but that wasn't his normal genre of manga. They had been a gift from someone else. He hadn't even read them. And if you look at some of the the prosecutor's conspiracy theories and some of the theories he came up with they were having like this orgy and all this kind of stuff. That guy, the stuff that goes on in his head is worse than anything that was in those manga comics. Like, that guy's nuts. Like, it would be like having Alex Jones be your prosecutor. Like, the guy just comes up with these weird theories. Like, he honestly believes conspiracy theories and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's insane. And so, like, but getting back to the knife. So the knife had Meredith's DNA on it from the lab. It was Amanda's family hired an independent DNA office to look, or her defense team hired people to look into it. And they found that evidence from the crime scene, so everything that had, Meredith's DNA all over it, was actually being processed right next to the knife by the same people. So, and they're not, just so you know, they're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to take a piece of evidence, you process it, you clean everything, and then you bring in the next piece of evidence. That's not what they were doing. They were processing multiple pieces of evidence in the same room at the same time. So that creates a massive cross-contamination, and considering the slight amount of Meredith's DNA that was actually on the knife, it could only come from cross-contamination because there was so little that they couldn't retest it. Right? So when the defense wanted to test the DNA on the knife, there wasn't enough left for them to test. That's how little was actually on the knife. So all this other stuff, her being foxy Knoxy and a femme fatale, and they were going to have this big orgy, and Meredith just she was a good girl and she didn't want to, it was all bullshit. Bullshit. Now, there's one other piece of evidence, and I found it online. I'll see if I can find a link to it as well, where they talk about the bathroom being covered in blood. The bathroom wasn't covered in blood. There was a bloody footprint on the bath mat and a little bit of blood on the sink. Now, the photo you see all the time is like after they've sprayed it with stuff that reacts with certain chemicals, and it was reacting with the bathroom cleaner. So it looked like the place was, it looked like there was more blood there than there was in the crime scene in Meredith's bedroom. And that's not what it is. It's so they would give the media misleading information. And that was one of the things that really struck me, because when I saw the picture of the bathroom, I was just like, it's not even the right color for blood. So, but so many people just, they take things at face value, and it's like, you need to question. And I think this is a perfect example of when we need to question. I'm not even going to say that's my opinion. Those are the facts. Feel free to like, share, comment, do whatever it is we do with these videos. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HimtaroGirl. Check out my blog, Musings of Himtaro Girl, and be sure to subscribe. Till next time, bye!